I was saying, y'all, it's your boy Rico from RicoScores. I know I'm late, but I've just been very busy today. I haven't even been home for very long yet. Then I was on the stream with Protect, man. Shouts out Protect, shouts out to Livewire, man. That was a great stream that we did. Make sure you go check that out on Protect's channel, of course. But we're here to talk about quarterback Drake Maye and his UNC Pro Day. We're going to do a full recap, a full analysis, everything, what went well, what went wrong, all of that type of stuff. Ooh, that many W's almost tripped me up. I ain't going to lie. But we got to talk about a lot of different things. First of all, the Commanders, most notably Dan Quinn, looks like he's in love with Drake Maye. I'm going to show y'all example pictures of how much he likes Drake Maye, and we're going to break down like all of the behind the scenes information about how excited Dan Quinn was about the Drake Maye Pro Day. It's crazy. The level of passion he had for Drake Maye was definitely above the others. We're going to dive into that. Also, we got to talk about Drake Maye's deep bombs, but also some inaccuracy issues at the beginning. We're going to talk about that. And of course, I also not only want to give you my thoughts on the Pro Day, but also we're going to go around and look at some of like the media's reactions, like draft analysts, national media guys, ESPN and stuff like that. We're going to do a deep dive into how they felt about the Pro Day. And so now after this Pro Day, does this move the needle? Is Drake Maye now the favorite to be second overall pick for the Washington Commanders, especially after this Pro Day? We're going to dive into all that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content, man. I'm coming with so much, man, mock drafts. I still got to do a video on us signing Olamide Zaccheaus from the Falcons and Eagles. Watch out for that. That's probably going to come out either like way late tonight or like early tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for that. I'm coming with another mock draft soon. I'm going to give y'all a big time cap space update once we finally just have somewhat of a slowdown of news. Wouldn't be surprised if we end up signing somebody tomorrow too as well. I thought if any day that we wouldn't be signing somebody, it would be the day that we're busy in Louisiana and North Carolina. We still found a way to sign somebody, so who knows? So I'm gonna keep y'all updated on every little thing. Let's go ahead and get to this video. I'm done wasting more of y'all time. Let's get it. Adam. And I don't even know why I decided to listen to Baby Kid while I'm trying to record this video. I'm over here getting yelled at, trying to focus on my notes and stuff like that and everything that I have prepared. Lord have mercy. I might have to pause my music, man. Shouts out Baby Kid, though. But before we get into everything, first of all, Drake Maye measured in at slightly above 6'4" in height and 227 pounds in weight. And if you're really looking at him, he has the build, frame, whatever you want to call it, to where he can add a little bit more weight. Like, I can feel like he honestly can get up into the 230s if you really want him to, but maybe they don't. But who knows? Maybe if they want to lean more on his underrated mobility, then maybe you want him to stay down there so that he can keep some of that speed, or maybe you add a little bit more weight on him so that if you're not trying to take advantage of his mobility, you want him to throw the ball way more than he ever runs, then maybe you do that and it makes him a little bit more sturdy and be able to take more hits, especially within the pocket and things like that. And then, you know, a lot of that Josh Allen, Justin Herbert like stuff where like there's a defender around their legs or wrapped around their waist and they're able to still deliver a ball accurately. That comes with that extra little bit of bulk and muscle. Maybe they prefer to get that rather than having them be a little bit faster. So I'm leaning towards the fact that my main point is, don't be surprised that even though he weighed at 227 today, I don't feel like with Jayden Daniels where it seemed like he was doing all that he could to get his weight up before he got weighted today, before he was measured. I feel like that's just who he is on a normal day, and I feel like when he gets to the NFL level, whoever ends up drafting him are going to probably prefer for him to gain a little bit more weight. So again, don't be surprised that even though he weighed 227 today, he may be in the 230s by the time week 1 of the regular season actually starts. Just to give you the heads up. Also, he was smiling real big after he weighed in as well, because he knows that he's the best physical build out of all of the top draft quarterbacks between, of course, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, and Jayden Daniels. I feel like Jayden Daniels' weight, first of all, is blown out of proportion. I feel like the concerns about his weight are just way overblown. In my personal opinion, I'm not worried about it as anywhere near as much as a lot of people are out there, even though I'm not sure that the weight that he actually qualified for. It was like 215 yesterday. I doubt he's actually that on a normal day. Again, I feel like he did all that he could, eating and exercise wise, lifting weights to be able to get to that weight. And then literally by today, he's probably not even 215 pounds anymore. He probably ate like a big meal right before that pro day. But again, either way, I don't really care about his weight concerns, me personally. But at the same time, on the Drake Maye side, that is something you never have to worry about. When it comes to his height, his weight, his arm strength, all of those check boxes are checked. I mean, filled in, we're good to go. Definitely don't have to worry about that. And then also, going into the pro day, one report said that North Carolina Drake Maye had big representation from the following NFL teams: the Washington Commanders, the New York Giants, and the Denver Broncos. You know, Sean Payton wants his guy, especially after trading away Russell Wilson. No, they cut him, I believe. He just ended up going to the Steelers on a cheap veteran minimum deal. And the reason he was able to do that is because the Broncos are still paying him monumental money to not play for them. Like, the dead cap that Russell Wilson left behind for them is ridiculous. So really their only option is to go and draft a top quarterback in this draft that they hope can start week 1, because they didn't have enough money available to go and get a top guy. Like, they had no shot at Kirk Cousins because they literally didn't have the cap space because Russell Wilson is eating up the majority of it. So I'm not surprised by them. But then another report said that Commanders, Patriots, and the Broncos were some of the biggest contingents out there to watch Drake Maye's throwing session at UNC's pro day and things like that. That came from Mike Garafolo, or I'm not exactly still sure how you pronounce his last name. I've heard it pronounced like 3 different ways. But either way, so the first report that I saw said Commanders, Giants, Broncos. The second one said Commanders, Patriots, Broncos. Either way, you see Commanders and Broncos twice. So no matter who you ask, the Commanders and Broncos were heavy there. But for some reason, Mike Garafolo did not mention the Giants. And then the other rumor source did not mention the Patriots, but it is what it is. But Gerard Mayo had front row seats. He was right there in the mix of everything. Maybe they didn't send a lot of people. Who knows? Mike Garafolo says that they did, but I know for a fact Gerard Mayo had front row seats. Either way, again, people brought out their main guys to watch Drake Maye in North Carolina today, especially the Washington Commanders. And I'm pointing out the fact that all of these other teams are bringing a lot of people too, is that I just want you to know that he is going top 3. This whole JJ McCarthy noise, I think, is just smoke screens right now. Like, even if we take Jayden Daniels second overall, Drake Maye, I feel like, is immediately going third right afterwards. Whether it's the Patriots or taking them right there, staying at number 3, or another team like the Giants or the Vikings or maybe the Broncos do whatever they can to trade up to number 3 to get him. I just feel like it's pretty much a done deal. He's going top 3 overall, whether we take him at 2 or not. I mean, it was just too many teams there that were just too excited to see him throw in everything. And again, going back to the Commanders, we had General Manager Adam Peters, Assistant General Manager Lance Newmark, Head Coach Dan Quinn, Offensive Coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, and wide receiver De'Ami Brown, who was, of course, a former UNC North Carolina Tar Heel right there, former teammate of Sam Howell and everything in college and for the Commanders. And now he's probably hoping that we go and get a Drake Maye now that Sam Howell's been traded. But I'm pretty sure De'Ami Brown was fighting for his guy Sam Howell to stay, even as much as he may like Drake Maye. But he definitely is far more attached and has caught far more passes from Sam Howell than he ever caught from Drake Maye. I'm not even sure if he ever actually caught a regular season pass from Drake Maye. I highly doubt it. Actually, no, yeah, he didn't, because he went the draft before Sam Howell. So yeah, what am I talking about? There was no chance. Maybe some practice throws, maybe in practice, maybe some scrimmages behind the scenes, but like actual college regular season games, no chance. So I'm pretty sure De'Ami Brown was fighting for Sam Howell. But at the end of the day, now that Sam Howell's gone, of course, his favorite option is another UNC guy in Drake Maye. So I'm pretty sure he's pounding the table for him, but I'm letting you know now that he will not have much of an effect on who we draft. Just to go ahead and give you that heads up. Our wide receiver 4 at best has no effect on who we take in this upcoming draft. But who does, maybe Dan Quinn. And you have clips of Dan Quinn, I mean, just completely talking Drake Maye's ear off. Both of them guys going back and forth looking like they're having a great time. And everybody was extra happy and joking around with Drake Maye. Even Adam Peters was a little bit as well, but Dan Quinn by far the most. But it's just crazy because they didn't seem to act like that at all from what I saw from when they went to Jayden Daniels or Caleb Williams' pro day at all. I mean, it could easily mean nothing. Who knows? And we could end up drafting somebody other than Drake Maye. Who knows? But there was a big, obvious difference between how Adam Peters and Dan Quinn interacted with Drake Maye versus the other top 2 quarterbacks. Easy difference. Everybody else was kind of like a dap up or a hug, a simple introduction with a smile. But with Drake Maye, honestly, if you didn't know what the situation was, you would think that Drake Maye was already the Commanders' starting quarterback, and those guys were just laughing and joking around together at this pro day, and were mainly there to just watch other UNC players. Like, Drake Maye looked like he was already the quarterback for Dan Quinn and Adam Peters for years already, and they were just kind of there just to watch other players or something like that. I mean, they looked like they already have like a sense of humor chemistry. I mean, they were over there laughing it up. I don't know what they were talking about, but clearly Dan Quinn especially loves himself some Drake Maye. But again, it could be absolutely nothing. Maybe they love Drake Maye as the personality. Maybe they prefer Jayden Daniels as the quarterback. Who knows? But just to let you know, that interaction between Drake Maye and our decision makers was definitely different than how they treated the other top quarterbacks in Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I mean, look at this, man. Look at these pictures right here. Like, look at that last picture. That boy Dan Quinn looked like he done won a prize in that last picture. Like, that boy done look like he hit the lotto. Like, he looked so excited and like giddy all over. Like, he looked like he got butterflies in his stomach over Drake Maye. Like, oh my God, I can't believe he's right here in front of me in person. He looked like he laughing at every joke. That boy Drake Maye said hi and Dan Quinn started busting out laughing type of situation. He looked so happy. And then there was even a moment like somewhere later on in their interaction, Dan Quinn and Drake Maye both did this to each other, and like, I don't know, man. It just, that looks like he's just already a Commander. That relationship just seems so strong. And then even outside of those two, Cliff Kingsbury seemed to be away from those guys. He seemed to be doing his own thing. Every shot that you saw Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, they were together, but you never really saw Cliff Kingsbury in the same shots as them. Cliff Kingsbury spent a lot of his afternoon talking to UNC offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey for the vast majority of the throwing session. And shouts out to Sam Fortier for pointing out the fact that both of those guys are guys that don't like their offenses labeled as air raid. Cliff Kingsbury went out of his way to say it, and then UNC offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey has also gone out of his way to say it. They do not like that air raid label, so maybe they can relate when it comes to a lot of that. And then again, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn were just vibing with Drake Maye. Cliff Kingsbury was vibing with Drake Maye's offensive coordinator. Maybe they're trying to attack this from every angle possible. Pretty sure Adam Peters and Dan Quinn spoke to the offensive coordinator, but Cliff Kingsbury definitely spent the most time with them. So maybe he's trying to pick his brain and be like, okay, what plays are best for him? What route concepts are best for him? Which protection schemes are best for him? And he was probably diving into some X's and O's stuff like, hey man, like what worked best for him, what didn't work for him, and whatever recommendations you could give me as far as the X's and O's things goes and things like that. So you never know, and you can tell how much the Commanders want Maye, at the very least over a guy like Michael Penix Jr. by the fact that Michael Penix's pro day was on the same day as Drake Maye's, which was today, and we sent everybody to Drake Maye's. We didn't even like split them in half, like maybe Adam Peters, Cliff Kingsbury, Drake Maye, Dan Quinn, and Lance Newmark, Michael Penix. We didn't even do that. We sent everybody that was a big decision maker, anybody that had any heavy influence on who we will take at quarterback, all of them went to Drake Maye. We didn't try to allocate and spread out the resources. No, straight Drake Maye show. And we only sent area scout Paul Scansey, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And he may have been there for players outside of Michael Penix. Remember, it's not the Michael Penix pro day. It was the Washington pro day. Of course, there's like Troy Fatanu there, who we may trade up into the first to get at tackle after we take a quarterback. And then you also have maybe some day two targets like edge rusher Braylon Trice, or offensive tackle Roger Rosengarten. Maybe like there's some options there that we probably sent that area scout to the Washington pro day more so for guys outside of Michael Penix. So just to remind y'all, all, I just want to reiterate the reason I'm giving y'all this information is that we are not trading back. I hope y'all understand that by now. Just know it's between Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye. Highly doubt there's any other option there. I think we're more likely to take JJ McCarthy than we are to trade back. I'm just letting you know that now. And then speaking of Michael Penix, actually before we move on and really dive into this Drake Maye Pro Day, Michael Penix ran a 4.46 unofficial 40-yard dash. I don't know what it ended up actually being by the end of it officially, but hey man, that guy was moving. But too bad Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, none of those guys were there to see it in person because they cared way more about watching that Drake Maye Pro Day in person. And so let me first talk about how I felt about the Pro Day, and then we'll get to how the media and the draft analysts out there reacted and felt about Drake Maye's Pro Day. But first of all, my opinions. Well, his Pro Day pretty much went how his tape went, I would say. Like elite throws that very few in human history can make, but also some scary misses where it's like, what was that? And that's literally the type of prospect that I can see him being at the NFL level, that I can see a team falling in love with and taking them second or at worst third overall. But I can also see how that type of inconsistency can get a coach and staff fired for trying to take a guy like that, where Jayden Daniels is like the safer guy outside of weight concerns that a lot of people that, again, I don't have for him, but a lot of people have for him. Jayden Daniels is easily the safer choice. And I can see how somebody would take Drake Maye over Jayden Daniels. And if Drake Maye continues that inconsistency, looking like the Georgia Tech game or looking like forgot the other game that he was bad in, you know, if he continues that and takes that into the NFL with him, you know, he looked great in his Pro Day today. We're going to get to that. But when the bullets are flying, for some reason those accuracy issues come up, but maybe he's fixed it. That Pro Day looked pretty good. He looked more accurate there than he's looked overall in his film. You never know. But again, you can see the elite traits that a team can fall in love with, but you can also see the inconsistencies in which you could classify as weaknesses that could potentially get a team fired for taking him rather than the safer, you know, this guy's gonna at the very least be pretty good, really good in Jayden Daniels. And he had that really bad throw that's probably gonna get retweeted everywhere, especially by pure Jayden Daniels fans. Like where me, I love both quarterbacks. I just slightly prefer Jayden Daniels, but there's going to be those people out there that are purely Caleb Williams fans, purely Jayden Daniels fans, or maybe even JJ McCarthy fans that hate Drake Maye, and they're going to retweet that throw. That throw was terrible. He missed the receiver by like 20 yards. It was crazy, and what's even crazier is that he literally has done that on tape multiple times. But just like his tape, for every bad and inaccurate throw where it's like, what happened? And you could probably blame it on his technique. For every one bad throw, he also has 5 amazing ones to match it. So when you're talking about out of the top 3 pro days, you could argue that Drake Maye probably had the 2 worst throws and the 2 best throws at the same time. That's just the Drake Maye experience that you see on tape and that you also witnessed in that pro day. And if we draft him, I'm expecting quite a bit of that, especially in his rookie season. I'm not expecting him to come out straight up week 1 killing it. I'm expecting him to scare the living mess out of defenses week 1, but I'm not expecting him to go out there and be consistent and be perfect yet. That's in an ideal world, maybe he does, but who knows? And even with one of those really bad throws, it sounded like somebody was letting off a gunshot from how loud it was hitting the building. Like that boy got a cannon, like literally looked like Mega Man out there. Like the one of those really bad throws, it like literally hit some part of the building. It went outside of the camera view. You heard like this loud bang. And it's like, I mean, yeah, that was a terrible throw. But hey, man, you hear that arm on him? You know, there's always a positive way to spin these Drake Maye weaknesses. But also going back to the missed throws real quick before we move on from that, just like I said after the Jayden Daniels Pro Day, we can't take too much from Pro Days. The good or the bad. The film does most of the work. I feel like the interview's a second. Maybe there's a mystery third. And I feel like the Pro Day is really fourth in what affects whether a team drafts a guy or not, or prefers Drake Maye over Jayden Daniels or Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye, to be completely honest. But again, I'm Rico of RicoScores, so I'm going to give y'all all of my information, all of my opinions on the situation, and then you take from it what you want to take from it. But at the end of the day, man, these Pro Days, I don't really feel like they make or break a draft pick. I really don't. I just feel like it's so scripted. So the great things that they do, again, there's no coverage. There's no edge rushers coming at them to try to inflict pain on them and things like that. And then even like the negative side, I mean, with the bad throws that they make, I mean, how much can you really read into it? And then also the question is, with Drake Maye specifically, Can you live with the inconsistencies while also getting top 5 quarterback flashes until he finally puts it all together? If he ever does. You never know if he just never puts it all together, but I'm expecting some flashes that is, I mean, at worst, like I think the worst Drake Maye could ever be is that guy that's extremely inconsistent and you just can't go to a Super Bowl with him, but he's always going to make those random elite plays that makes a team just keep wanting to give him another year and another year and another year. We believe in his talent. We just got to find a way to get it out of him. I can see him, worst case scenario, going like that, because that top 5, top 10 quarterback talent that he has in his arm especially is gonna come out regardless occasionally. We just gotta hope that that happens and that comes out more than the bad. And assuming that he does end up actually working out and putting it all together, we can expect to see a lot of crazy elite level throws like the one that I feel like was the most impressive in the pro day, which was like a 65-yarder. He threw rolling out to his right and ended up throwing off of one leg. He didn't even like reset his feet or reset his base. And that throw was amazing. And even as a guy, again, that prefers Jayden Daniels over a Drake Maye, that throw was crazy. And you simply can't teach that. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things with Drake Maye. You can kind of say the same thing with Jayden Daniels with his deep ball accuracy and with his, especially with his legs. You can't teach that. But Drake Maye's arm talent and arm strength, you cannot teach that. Because if you could, everybody would have it. It's rare. He has top 5, at worst top 7 arm talent when he enters the NFL. At the very least, arm strength. And hey, man, you just can't teach that. And so you can also look at it, especially from a coaching staff point of view. I earn my keep around here. I make millions of dollars to develop guys. Why not take the guy with the elite arm talent? And then my job is to get those inconsistent things out of him, and you take the traits that you can't teach, and then you deal with the traits that you can teach and develop out of them. And again, he's elite at natural things that you just either have or you don't. You're just born with it. I don't know how it happens, but it just happens. I mean, even with like a fadeaway deep bomb that he had at one point in this pro day. Look at this. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, literally just a flick of the wrist, man. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's crazy. And most of, if not all of his bad throws were in the beginning of the pro day. So I have 3 points for this. I feel like 1, he had to warm up, and that's kind of like an everybody problem for the most part. People rarely just come out slanging to start their pro days. They kind of start off a little rusty, then they get warmed up, get the juices flowing, then they start to make some better throws. Number 2, I feel like he let his early bad throws rattle him up a little bit. Like, I feel like he got a little nervous and then kind of had to snap out of it. I feel like he started to overthink things and after a couple of bad throws, but eventually he snapped out of it and then killed the remainder of his pro day. And then 3, the throws that he was like easily the worst at in that pro day were all kind of like outbreaking, timing and accuracy required throws, like towards the sidelines, where you have to throw it not only on target but also on time. And that's something that he can improve on with time and coaching. I feel like Jayden Daniels is definitely ahead of him in that department right now, but that's something that is technically coachable, and who knows how long it would take for him to finally get that down. But I can see why a coach would be like, man, you can't teach that arm, but I can teach him how to throw that pass a little bit quicker, a little bit sooner. But I'm not going to lie, before that deep ball portion, I was starting to think that JJ McCarthy had the best pro day out of all of the top quarterbacks. But then after Maye's deep ball showing off portion of the day, I would say that JJ McCarthy was the most consistent, but Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye were for sure the most exciting. Because Caleb Williams, he's disqualified. He didn't even care in his. I don't know if y'all saw his pro day, but you could tell that he knows that he's going #1 overall, and he had nothing to prove in his pro day. He was so nonchalant. He was just chilling. He did not care at all. So the most consistent, I would still say JJ McCarthy out of all of the pro days that I saw. I didn't see Bo Nix. I didn't see Spencer Rattler. I didn't see Michael Penix's. Out of all of the top guys, including JJ McCarthy as like the 4th guy, JJ was the most consistent, the most accurate, the most, I mean, hey, if Adam Peters wants a stronger arm Brock Purdy, there you go. I hope he doesn't think like that. I want Jayden Daniels 1, Drake Maye 2, and then a distant 3rd for me is JJ McCarthy. But I can see the argument, especially after what you saw in his pro day, that, you know, maybe he can come in and, you know, as an offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, the guy that's never going to deviate from the plan, he's going to do exactly what you ask him to. I can see them falling in love with a guy like that, but I highly doubt it. I still feel like it's going to be Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye. Highly doubt that this JJ McCarthy information, this whole rise to the top, is just actually a real thing. But either way, I still feel like Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye had the highest ceiling pro days, the most exciting, the most wild throws, the oh my god, you can't teach that throws, especially Drake Maye. But I also feel like if Jayden Daniels would have run, or if we would have had some, I mean, I think they did a good job of simulating pressure to make him move around and then throw off balance. I feel like he did a great job with that as well. So I feel like both of their pro days were really exciting. But of course, again, JJ McCarthy was definitely the most accurate and consistent. I also like Drake Maye wise that it was his idea to throw that many deep balls in a row. He literally said after his pro day, quote, I said, hey, put them all back to back. My arm, knock on wood, I can throw for days and throw it deep as many times as you want, unquote. So that was by design. That was deliberate on Drake Maye's part. He wanted to show teams that he can attempt as many deep shots as you want, as early and as often as you want. And I love that, man. As far as in games go, you never really have to worry about his arm durability throughout the course of an NFL game. By the time we get to the fourth quarter, maybe we shouldn't throw it as much in the first because we're going to really need him to throw it in the fourth. Like, he's letting you know that his arm never needs a break. It's never tired. And I like that. He went into the pro day with a goal and a strategy. Like, he's not just going out there like, again, Caleb Williams that was just kind of going through the motions. Here's this throw. He went into the pro day like, let me show you I'm specifically elite at this, and you don't have to worry about this when you draft me. Jayden Daniels did it with a lot of the simulated pressures. He did it with a lot of the timing routes that Drake Maye wasn't necessarily good at. Jayden Daniels was pretty decent at that. He was at least better than Drake Maye in his pro day at those things. And again, Drake Maye was like, we're going to do so many deep shots to show everybody that you do not have to worry about that. If you want to take deep shots, I'm your guy because my arm's never tired. And I love the fact that he took initiative on his own to make sure that was incorporated in his pro day. I like the fact that he took control of that. And now, how the media and draft analysts felt about Maye's pro day. They were very high on him. Jordan Reed, y'all know, famous draft analyst, said, stood behind Drake Maye the entire throwing session. A few errant throws early on, but he settled in as it went on. Ball comes out of his hands with plenty of velocity. Then you have Joe A_NFL on Twitter. He said Drake Maye casually throwing that ball 65 yards on a dime at his pro day. Wide receiver never broke stride. Typical, the man was accurate on 21 of 26 deep ball attempts in the 11 games I graded this year. So that pretty much checks out. That's what he does. Deep ball kills it. Even I would argue Jayden Daniels is the better deep ball thrower, in my opinion. But Drake Maye also has a lot of ceiling and a lot of potential there as well. Then you have Mac Brown that joined like the actual ACC live stream of the pro day. He said, quote, he's got a Super Bowl written all over him, unquote. And basically said that Drake Maye is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. He's the type of quarterback that you need that can make a team better, not let a team carry him. When in doubt, he can carry a team type of guy. That's what Mac Brown is saying. And then shifting towards what the Commanders may have thought about Drake Maye's pro day, based on what Cerrone Battle was saying in like a podcast or like some type of radio appearance soon after the pro day, it sounded like Drake Maye will probably end up going first overall after what he said. Check this out. Cerrone said that he was very close to the coaches and scouts from the Jets and the 49ers, and then Dan Quinn was also there as well, but that's the area he was standing at during the pro day. And not only were they oohing and ahhing a lot during the pro day, but he said they were also singing the OJ's Money, 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 Money after one of Drake Maye's many great throws. Like, they were having a good old time. And again, Dan Quinn included, singing along. And then even after that, there was a point where Drake Maye made another ridiculous throw deep down the field. And then Dan Quinn and some of the scouts shook their head and acted like they were walking away and leaving the building before they turned around and then were like laughing and smiling and things like that. Like, basically they were showing that they've seen enough. He killed it, mic drop type of thing. They were pretending to leave before the pro day was even over because they felt like he's killed it. He's done. What else do we need to see type of thing? And take with that information whatever you want, but it sounds like they love themselves some Drake Maye. Or at the very least, Dan Quinn does, but of course, this is the Adam Peters show. So even if Dan Quinn prefers Drake Maye by a lot, if Adam Peters prefers somebody else like a Jayden Daniels, then we're more than likely drafting that person. Again, it's the Adam Peters show. But again, man, I want to emphasize that boy Dan Quinn loves himself some Drake, man. I mean, absolutely loves him. But again, like I said earlier, like I did with my Jayden Daniels Pro Day analysis video from yesterday, remember that Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, and Malik Willis had some of the best pro days we've ever seen, and look how they turned out. So pro days are not everything, but try telling that to Dan Quinn, who was out there having the time of his life watching Drake Maye throw that ball. And Cerrone also said that the way that Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf were acting at the pro day, some way similar, there's no way that they trade out of that number 3 pick. Unless we take Maye and then they just don't like Jayden Daniels, and then at that point they just love Drake Maye so much that's the only person they want, he's not there at 3, then they trade back. But if we take Jayden Daniels, the screen might as well literally go from Washington pick is in to Washington selects Jayden Daniels to Patriots pick is in immediately. Don't even bother putting Patriots on the clock, because if Drake Maye is available number 3 overall, they're sprinting to that podium to get him based off of what Cerrone said. And again, if Dan Quinn has any say in it, we're sprinting to the podium at number 2 overall to get Drake Maye. And somebody on NFL Network also said, quote, "I'm so sick of hearing about who's the most NFL ready. I don't care about who's ready to play now. You take the guy who you think will be the best quarterback in 10 years, unquote." And I can see the argument for that, especially with a number 2 overall pick. Yeah, maybe you play it safe later on, but you're reaching for elite traits, elite talent early in the draft. I can see that, but that's a solid point. And I do agree that Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams are more day one ready, but I can also see the argument to where that may not really matter to Adam Peters and the Commanders, with the fact that we're like in a rebuilding stage right now, a recalibration according to Dan Quinn. So even though I feel like Jayden Daniels has a very underrated ceiling, especially with his legs, and also, again, he had the best deep ball in all of college last year, including Caleb Williams and Drake Maye. But at the same time, I can see an argument to where Drake Maye has the more elite level arm ceiling. Maybe not overall ceiling, but a lot of people feel like it's overall ceiling. And I also saw somebody say that the most accurate comp and the best comp for Drake Maye, instead of like a Justin Herbert or a Josh Allen, somebody said maybe pre-injury Carson Wentz when you're talking about comps. And just to let you know, when we're discussing comps, we're talking about play style wise, not career-wise. I want to emphasize that. Career has a lot more factors involved, like where he gets drafted, O-line, offensive coordinator, weapons, even defense and things like that, because winning is a quarterback stat. So there's so many more things when it comes to career. But when you're talking about play style, I can kind of see it. So I just don't want y'all to hear pre-injury Carson Wentz and then just think about that like Drake Maye is going to have the same exact career. He's going to get hurt and then he's going to be washed up with occasional flashes afterwards or something like that. Even remember from our time with Carson Wentz, where when he was our quarterback, he had some of those huge flashes, like those deep bombs to De'Ami Brown that one game, but then the most of it was just bad. But I'm not saying that Drake Maye is that at all. I'm just agreeing that he is. I mean, I can see the pre-injury Carson Wentz MVP front runner before injury Carson Wentz. I can see that comp. But again, there's also the inconsistency, so you just got to watch out. I think that's actually a pretty accurate comp, I'm not going to lie. And also, Mac Brown also pointed out that Drake Maye never took an NIL deal unless they let an offensive position group be a part of it as well. And I'm telling you right now, you know for a fact Dan Quinn loves that. If he knows that, it's over with. If Dan Quinn has anything to say with who we draft second overall, it's Drake Maye. If we end up taking Jayden Daniels, it's because Adam Peters wanted him. I'm letting you know that now, because I'm willing to put money on the fact that Dan Quinn prefers Drake Maye. Plain and simple. But also, shouts out to Mark Tyler for charting the pro day, and he just wanted to do like the comparisons. He said Jayden Daniels at 6'3", 210 pounds. My fault, not even 215. 56 throws, 52 of 56, 3 incomplete, 1 drops, only 3 incompletions. Drake Maye 6'4", 227 pounds, 74 throws, 69 of 74, because 3 were incomplete, but 2 were dropped, and that sounds about right. Drake Maye is almost as likely to throw a bad pass as his receivers were to drop good ones. So that sounds just about right. Shouts out to Mark Tyler for charting that. So they both had 3 incompletions, but Drake Maye threw 18 more throws than Jayden Daniels throw. And again, that was definitely deliberate. That was definitely probably like a direct shot at Jayden Daniels. Like, okay, you look pretty good on your pro day. The only way I can really outdo you is just to throw more passes than you and to put up more highlights and things like that. So I'm not mad at him, man. I love the competitive spirit if that's how he went about that. And for me, like I've already said several times before, I really like both quarterbacks. I would be happy with either guy. I prefer Jayden Daniels, but I'm happy either way as long as it's one of those two guys. Of course, I would also like Caleb Williams, but I already know he's going #1 overall. But for me, it's not necessarily who they take between those two guys. It's more so how they set him up for success. I can see scenarios where both of these quarterbacks end up being top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I can definitely see it. And I also feel like we have an elite group of proven quarterback developers in Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Johnson, and even Anthony Lynn was the head coach when Justin Herbert won Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And a lot of people compare Drake Maye to Justin Herbert. So me personally, I feel like as long as it's one of those top three guys, again, Caleb, Jayden, or Drake, we're going to ball out regardless. Again, the important distinction is I love the quarterbacks and the talents, and I trust our coaching staff's ability to develop and design the right offense around whoever they choose to draft, and they're going to bring out their strengths. They're going to hide their weaknesses. They're going to do everything in their power to help that guy succeed. And I'm also hoping that everybody, not just Adam Peters, is happy with the pick. I hope everybody is on the same page and ready to do everything in their power to help whoever we draft succeed and win. That's all I hope for. Again, slight preference of Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye, but most importantly, I feel like we're getting too caught up into who we draft. I feel like it's more so after we take whoever we take, we need to definitely focus more so on, okay, now that we have them, how do we set them up for success? I feel like that should be our worry already today. That should be our primary thought even before we take whoever we take. Just to go ahead and give y'all the heads up, that's where I stand on it. Now, on top of everything, I also feel like they both bring elite traits. Like, of course, Jayden Daniels is better at certain things than Drake Maye. Drake Maye is better at certain things than Jayden. But I feel like they both can be elite deep ball throwers, especially potentially to stretch defenses. And I feel like they're both very mobile. I feel like you can win with both guys. Of course, Jayden Daniels is more mobile than Drake Maye, but then define mobility. When you're talking about in the pocket, you can argue Drake Maye is maybe a little bit more mobile because he has better pocket presence in a lot of people's eyes. I'm kind of 50-50 there. It just depends on how the play goes. I feel like Jayden Daniels can have better pocket presence. I feel like Drake Maye, but that's my point. I feel like we're really splitting hairs here, and I feel like either guy will end up being great. That's my whole stance on it. And shouts out to @GetItRight_Take, because I completely agree with this tweet. He said, quote, "What I will not do is get on this app and argue all day about Daniels versus Maye. I have a preference, but I don't have an agenda." Important distinction there. Whoever we draft, I will support and be happy with and hopeful about. I completely agree. I'm right with them exactly right there, especially between those two guys. And then going back to Mark Tyler, he said in a tweet, "The pro days for the top 4 quarterbacks are all done. Meetings will take place, but behind closed doors. Knowing what I've heard and seeing what I've seen to this point, here is my best guess on percentage to be the Washington Commanders pick at #2 overall." He said Maye 75%, Jayden Daniels 20%, and other 5%. So I don't know what he's hearing. I don't know what he's read. I don't know what's going on, but that's how Mark Tyler feels, just to give you that update. And also, like I said before earlier in my video, from when I was breaking down what happened with the Commanders' new stadium is more than likely going to end up in Maryland after the Capitals and Wizards whole situation in the Potomac Yards in Virginia just fell through. That was a complete failure. I did a whole update on that. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. But at the end of that video, I was giving y'all the heads up that Drake Maye's pro day was going to be later on today after I got that video out there. And like I said earlier in that video, dating back to yesterday afternoon, this 48-hour span of time is huge for the Commanders. I don't think a lot of people are really taking a step back and putting it into perspective, because Jayden Daniels' pro day was yesterday afternoon, and then they had dinner with him, I'm assuming, last night. Then they had breakfast with Drake Maye this morning, and then Drake Maye's pro day at 3:30 p.m. This 48-hour span may have changed a lot, and they may come away with knowing who they want to draft at quarterback by tonight. Like, by the time this video gets out to y'all and y'all are watching it, they may already know who they want. I mean, maybe we'll still have some visits. Maybe we'll bring Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels out to Ashburn to work them out, and we can watch film with them. We can review tape with them and try to pick their brains and things like that. But I would not be, so I'm not saying that they will. I'm not saying it's very likely, but I'm just letting you know, don't be surprised that if somehow we got a behind the scenes look on this, they already feel strongly about a certain quarterback one way or the other. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Again, be on the lookout because I got to do a whole breakdown on the Olamide Zacchaeus signing, the wide receiver that we signed earlier, but I've just been so busy. I felt like I had to prioritize this pro day thing. We're going to get to that later. Again, maybe way late tonight or maybe tomorrow morning early, or by the time y'all get this, it's probably going to technically be like 12 a.m. on Friday, but just know the Zacchaeus signing is on the way soon. I'm also been on the lookout because mock draft, cap space update, jersey reveal for every free agent that we signed, all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you felt about Drake Maye's pro day. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points, any extra points that I didn't cover that you may have thought of, any extra analysis. Let me know that in the comment section as well, because you may bring up a point that I didn't even think about and you may put me on and make me a smarter analyst. So I really appreciate that. And again, don't leave this video without leaving a like, please. Appreciate y'all staying patient with me. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.